recently with everything that's have been going on in my life, there's been tragedy and there's war and we've been impacted, and a lot of it is just so random. And then something happens that is completely outside of your control and shows you just like how random things are. And sometimes these random things are very, very bad. And sometimes these random things are very, very good. All right, let's do it. Okay, so on today's episode, we have Kaleb for round 2, but instead of me asking the question, he'll be asking the question, and we'll have a good chat, hopefully try to get to know each other, learn some things, and just have a good time together.
Yeah, man, for sure. I mean, I've seen a lot of videos of yours, and arguably you've created some of the biggest impact in the design and Webflow community. I don't know how we'd measure that, but definitely a lot of people have been impacted. You've created like a lot of good, and by good I mean in people's experience. A lot of people's lives, I would argue, and I'm assuming would be better. I can say my life has been definitely. I don't even know how I'd measure that, but I can definitely say because of coming across you, you've massively impacted my life for good, and I've had a lot of more positive experiences because of that. Crossing of paths. And so I guess one thing that just intrigues me, which I couldn't really find much about, you give so much in terms of strategies and bits and pieces and tools and courses, but the thing that really intrigues me, I guess, is the ideas, the values that have been driving this whole thing that has led to creating so much good. So I've kind of been thinking of questions. I started going down rabbit holes. I tried to be like a really full-on reporter, and I was trying to reach out to like past colleagues, and I would message your partner.
Dig up my skeletons.
Yeah, to find some cool stuff. But yeah, so I thought we'd dig in. So if
I'm waiting for this video, there's going to be a viral video one day. Ron Segall is a scumbag, and the person who's going to dig up all the mistakes that I've made. And yeah. I just watched this video on another YouTube, and I was like, it's so painful that, Look, honestly, I'm kind of cautious doing these back reflections and trying to patch these old things into a nice story.
Ooh, interesting.
Because life is not really like that. You just roll with the punches or something like that. It's not as if, and I think I've shared this multiple times, it's not as if I had this strategy, grand scheme of things of how to do things, how to build my business. A lot of things are just happened randomly. There was an opportunity, it happened, and I took it, or I tried something. Some of these things work, some of these things have not worked. Obviously went in the direction that worked finally, after a lot of refusing to go in the direction that works. So yeah, I don't know how to tie this all into like a nice story or values.
Well, hopefully I can help guide it in a particular direction.
Okay, so let's do it.
Yeah, it's a bit of, I find the same thing very hard. It's like someone saying, can you just eat this watermelon, please? And you're like, I don't know where to start. Especially when you're in it, right? So you're the guy. So one thing that comes to mind is you actually had a recent Twitter or X post. And also for some context, for those that, I don't know, have no idea maybe where I'm coming from, I've recently founder of Flow Gurus, which building Webflow sites for probably 5 years now. I've been building Webflow websites, and a couple hundred of them with Flow Gurus after the last few years, and have recently joined Relume, which has been an incredible landmark experience. So now having a bit more time, I'm really wanting to kind of, I guess, connect with people in the space that are making that impact. Let me jump into these questions. I'm becoming aware that I'm not going to be as good as you at interviewing or podcasting. It's a skill, right?
I'm horrible. If you look at the comments to everything, it's just like, shut up, let them talk. You always interrupt them. So you are like, you're probably already better.
Well, okay. Actually, the thing that came to mind, which I was actually trying to lead to, was I saw your recent Twitter or X post, which was about people saying, oh, this is the way. And you're like, well, there's so much of it is luck. Like what motivated you to post that particular thing? Because I read the whole thing and I noticed it started up some conversations. What motivated that particular post?
I don't remember. Look, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but like recently with everything that's have been going on in my life, there's been tragedy and there's war and we've been impacted, and a lot of it is just so random. You think you make sense of the world, if I do this, then this happens, and you have a plan for your life, and I'm going to do this and this and this, and you have the illusion of control in your life, and then something happens that is completely outside of your control and shows you just like how random things are. And sometimes these random things are very, very bad, and sometimes these random things are very, very good. Usually you don't pay attention to this. For me, again, right now, I have something in my life that's radically showing me how, again, some people would call it luck, fate, whatever, randomness impacts us all. And I'm very, very aware of it. And that obviously leads to thinking, and by the way, I did not invent this thought. I've heard a lot of people also, if you read Nassim Taleb, I don't know if you know him, he's got a book, Fooled by Randomness, and he's actually got a series of books about it. It's all about how people mislead themselves. People love stories, and so they like to tell stories. Oh, I did this and this happened, and completely miss that so many random things happen to, that were out of this person's control to contribute to success or failure or other things. So this is definitely not an original thought that I had. It was just like physically came into my attention recently. And and so the reason that I wrote this was because a lot of people take guilt or feel guilt that they're not successful enough, or they haven't done this, or they haven't done that, as if this is fully their fault, or looking at other people and oh, if I was just like this person, and they completely miss out on how many other factors are in play. And this is not to discourage people from trying. And, some of the people in the comments and the discussion was, yes, but you did 1,000 videos and you worked very hard. And yeah, of course I worked very hard. But there's also a lot of people who worked very hard and did not get the same results.
Totally. There's plenty of people working very hard, digging holes.
Yes, for sure. For sure. And working hard is important, but also I think now realizing that you're part of something much, much bigger, and you can't control all the forces. You play in your pond, and then some whatever butterfly at the other side of the world does something that impacts you, and you had no control over that. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. That's life. And it's by the way, I'm saying this also to myself, because the goal of this thought is to say, okay, do what you think is the right thing, work very hard, but don't take it personally, or don't take it to heart when the result is not what you wanted, because you control your input, but the output is not 100% correlated to the input.
Totally.
Of course, again, if you never try, you will never succeed, and so forth. But if you try and you don't succeed, that's not 100% because you suck.
Yeah.
And get discouraged and don't try again. You should probably try 10 or 100 more times, and hopefully in one of them, the configuration of the puzzle of life is going to be that way in which the jackpot hits. So it's basically just lots of lottery tickets. You need a lot of lottery tickets.
Buy more of them. It reminds me of that parable, as the man riding on the donkey, and then his son, he breaks his leg, and they're like, oh, that's such bad luck. And then there's a war, and then the son doesn't have to go to war because he's got a broken leg. And oh, that's so lucky that your son has got a broken leg. Like that whole thing, right? Interesting. Actually, I heard you mention like the bigger picture. Now, to be completely transparent with you, this is my like deep down selfish goal of this whole thing, is to kind of get to this thing. I was expecting maybe a little bit more rabbit holes, but I don't know, maybe we can touch on it a little bit. The good that's come from what you're creating, and that you continue to create like a friggin' machine for years. Like I went back, your first video on YouTube was like 8 years ago or something.
Maybe, yeah.
And it keeps going. Like there's just videos after videos after video. And
you have to realize, here's me cutting you again.
You go for it. People in the comments bash you.
I'm not doing videos to spread good and change people's life. If I would say that, I would be such a hypocrite liar, right?
Oh, what are you doing it for?
In Flux Academy, we're here to make the world a better place. No, I make videos because I like making videos. That's it. I make videos because I enjoy making videos. That's it. If some people find it beneficial, if it changed their life, great. But that's not why I'm doing it, right? It's Alan Watts.
Yeah.
So Alan Watts has this conversation or lecture where he's talking about gurus or stuff like that. And he says, basically, I'm not a guru. I'm not trying to fix you. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I am just talking about this stuff like the bird is singing. And if you enjoy it, that's good for you, but that's not why I'm doing it. Now, I also realize that at this point, I am selling something, right? I'm selling courses. I'm trying to make money. So it's not fully like I started just because I enjoy doing it. Now I am doing it because that's how I make a living. In both of these, I'm not doing it because I'm trying to spread good, because I'm trying to make the world a better place. No, I'm doing it because now it's my job. And if that job, obviously, if your job is helpful and positive and makes a positive impact, that's great.
Yeah.
Then you feel more motivation and stuff like that.
We'll put it this way. If I see your point and I raise you, what if you were doing the exact same thing that you're currently doing, except it was causing a bunch of unhappiness in the world? Would you still be doing the same thing, the bird chirping?
That is a really good question. First of all, I don't know, right?
Oh, come on, man.
Look at all these people. Look at all the people working in Philip Morris, making cigarettes, making alcohol, making whatever. These people obviously go to work and not hate their life. So in some way, they tell themselves a story that what they're doing is good and what maybe other people, or I don't know what they tell themselves, but they probably tell themselves a story to feel good. And maybe because we're people, we rationalize our, we don't want to think we're assholes.
That's interesting. We're getting deep, but the reason I'm curious is, if I was to, I can't say what's in your head or what the ultimate goal is, but from what I gauge with what you put out, I think you really do care about the quality of what you're putting out in the world. Whether it's just because you purely enjoy that, even if the good is simply for you, like you are creating that art that you enjoy, it's still, for me anyway, it's creating more good in your world, even if it's completely selfish in your own vacuum. And I guess other people are lucky to happen upon it.
Yeah, I do have, for example, values which I care about. For example, I get many opportunities. I get lots of emails every day. Hey, can you do a sponsored video about our product? And I look at it and I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. Like, your product seems crappy. Like, I wouldn't use it. So no, I don't want to do it. Now,
interesting.
So here's a value, right? I'm saying no to money. Why? Why am I saying no to money? Because I have some kind of integrity or value that tells me do not recommend things that you don't. What is the value? That's an interesting question.
It is. I like how you said whatever integrity.
I don't like words like integrity because everybody uses it,
like an
and
ego
you're trying to think, what does it really mean? It really means I will not recommend something that I don't think is good to my audience for money. Why? I would feel like a sellout. I would feel like I'm lying. I would feel like I'm hurting them. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's the value. The value is I need to think that it's good, and then I'll talk about it. So obviously there are values that are guiding me.
Interesting.
You only find out about them when you have conflicts, right?
Or if someone's asking probing questions on a reverse podcast interview. Potentially.
Yeah. Maybe.
I mean, to be frank, I love this kind of conversation and digging into those things and figuring those things out, because it's very hard for ourselves to do it sometimes to ourselves because our mind doesn't often want to go there. But something's different, Ran, because if you look at your output, sure, there's luck, like your Twitter posts, sure, there's luck, but the output is exponentially different and exponentially more good, whether it's not about altruism or like, I just want to change the world, but measurably the impact has been quite different. So I saw, a lot of the things that you answer are often around the job to be done, how to make money, how to show up. But reflecting on this journey so far, again, very interesting, some of the stuff you've been saying, like a lot of people out there, ironically flow gurus, right? But a lot of gurus out there that are saying with such confidence, like, this is how you do the thing. This is how you make, like, now when I see that level of confidence when it comes to like business advice, I'm like, this person cannot possibly, like, I just put it in the, it can't be accurate, even if I'm wrong. But reflecting on your journey, what have you discovered about yourself that I guess was unexpected? What were you surprised to discover about yourself?
I discovered so many things about myself. And I think I shared a lot of them in kind of like my yearly summaries and stuff like that, where discovered that I have a conflict between wanting to make a lot of money and thinking that people who make a lot of money, again, are either sellouts or they only do it for the money. So having that conflict between wanting to be rich and that, I don't know if you want to call it punk value of rich people are bad, like don't be a sellout. Do it for the soul.
What do you think that was? Like that as an example, just out of curiosity, what do you, because that's something that I feel a lot of people struggle with, whether it's because maybe their family doesn't have that much money and, you know, it feels bad to say to their people around them, like, oh, I'm doing so well. Like, how are you doing? You know, what did you find that was for you? Did you figure that out?
That's still uncomfortable. Yeah. I mean, I still hang out with people who maybe make less money than me and I can afford things maybe they can't afford. And it's sometimes it's uncomfortable, especially when it's with your friends who you started out at the same place and now you're not in the same place. This can be awkward. Don't think that there's an easy answer for that. And there's actually a book that I read, not sure about it. What was it? Wired for Wealth, I think it's called, that talks about money psychology. And it basically says how most people do not want to change their financial situation by that much to the point where it's going to disconnect them from their network of friends and family. Because if you become too rich or too poor, by the way, for that matter, you're not going to be able to maintain the same relationships, or the relationships will change and it's not going to be the same anymore.
Interesting.
Most people subconsciously make the effort not to get out of where they were. So imagine you grew up poor. Subconsciously, you tell yourself, oh, I want to get out of poverty. I want to be rich. But subconsciously, you don't really want to be rich so that you have to move to a better neighborhood and you have to leave your friends and family. Some people obviously do it, but they pay the price. The price is they have to get these looks and have these difficult conversation with family, with friends, with everybody that they like. Maybe they can't trust them anymore for whatever reason. Everybody start asking them for money, so that's uncomfortable. So
that's a good example of back to the point around you talking about luck, right? Like, imagine you could literally be doing all the right things, following the, you know, what you should be doing, but then in the back of your mind, just because of the parents you've grown up with or the friend circle that you have, and it's not even a thing that you consider, and you're like, why do I keep hitting this ceiling? You've told me that you're looking for people who don't know their worth, which I thought was a really funny statement to make, and I actually get it as well, running a business. Can you speak to me more about what you meant?
No, I'm not. Let me just give context. When we were talking about this, you know, we were partnering and you were, you know, contributing to our new Webflow Masterclass. And I told you that I'm benefiting from you not knowing your worth, but I think I said you're an undervalued asset or something like this.
I could have been paraphrasing, by the way. That might not be the exact words you use, but yeah.
You know, I'm thinking about this. First of all, it's super common. The whole business model, every business is phrased upon, I'm going to buy something cheap and I'm going to sell it expensively. You know, if you think about the agency model, it's exactly that. You can say I'm buying cheap labor and I'm selling it expensively to my clients. So, but it's not like taking advantage of people. It's a win-win for everybody because, for example, in the agency model, you provide these people with a stable income, with the flow of clients that you've booked and so forth. So they're getting value, which they're happy with. You're, you know, getting value for that. So it's like a win-win situation.
Yeah.
But the reason that I framed it maybe like this, but was because some people who, and it's not really understand their worth, they don't want to work with you, right? If you think about you're hiring somebody for your agency and you want to pay whatever, $50 an hour. I'm just saying randomly, and that person says, no, I'm worth $100. And maybe he is, maybe he can make $100 an hour, but that's just not going to work for you. Okay. So you need to find the person who you can pay $50 an hour because you can sell it for $100, or that's what you need, right?
It's a funny concept that to cut you off. The concept of like know your worth, like, you know, charge what you're worth. But personally, philosophically, where I've come from, like I don't actually personally understand that concept at all. For me, it's more like I would like to be paid X amount. Do you want to pay me that? And if the answer is no, then I don't get that money in my bank account. It's not about, then you're worth it. If you do get paid it, then that's what you were worth.
Here's my insight about this. Here's my insight. Everybody tells you, know your worth, know your worth. The problem is not with knowing your worth. The problem is being worth more. Okay, that's what you need to work on. It doesn't matter if you know you're worth $50 an hour. The question is, you want to be worth $100 an hour. How do you do this? Well, you know, Kaleb is able to find and close client, so he can charge $100 an hour. You don't know. It doesn't matter that you know Webflow really good. So knowing Webflow really good is worth $50 an hour, but being able to close a client and sell a Webflow project is now worth $100 an hour. So again, it's not about knowing the worth. A lot of people are just, unfortunately, not happy with what they're worth. The market tells them by the fact that clients are not willing to pay them, they find out they're not worth a lot and they're frustrated. Yes. Sometimes there are cases, but I think these are edge cases where you might be very talented, but you're working with the wrong type of clients who are not valuing what you do, and you can easily fix it by working with somebody who does, I don't know English, who values, who does value what you're doing. So that's an easy fix. And that's, again, it's not know how much your value, it's know who's valuing what you're doing and finding them.
And convince them to give you money, basically.
Exactly.
That's a really good example, again, of one of those little things that if you're unlucky to get one of those bad ideas and it just sits there, you could be doing all the right things, following all the right steps, but then you've just got this. I've worked with people like that, and they've broken incredible opportunities to work with me on particular projects and to get paid incredibly well because they had this concept of like, I'm worth X or whatever, instead of just being like, well, what are you happy to pay? And I said, this is what I'm happy to pay. And that's it.
It's okay to shop around to figure out what you're worth, right? Hey, let me see. Will you pay me 2,000? No, I'll pay you 1,000. Will you pay me 2,000? No, I'll pay you 1,000. Maybe a third person will pay 2,000, and the minute that the third person pays 2,000, he is worth 2,000, right?
Correct, so because you have $2,000. That's when you
for sure. No, but if the third person wasn't there, then obviously he's worth $1,000 because the third person wasn't there. So your worth is, contextual not only to what you are worth, but it's the market. Who's in the market? How much money they have? Are they willing to pay? Is it worth to them? It's not solely about you. Or if I will be,
Yeah. It's one of those things I find personally. I'm so passionate about human relationships and the psychology of that, and the worth thing is one of those things that are in there. But between business and relationships, there are so many of these ideas that just sneak in that are so blurry, and actually when you look closely at them, they don't actually make sense, and they're actually not helpful at all. In fact, they can be detrimental, but we live by them. It's very interesting. In fact, you probably see so much of that.
Kind of like insight.
Please.
I want to share another insight when it comes to this. You were talking about my values, and so because I had all of these, thoughts about, I want to be worth more, and I'm sharing with others how they should be worth more. Then I had a conflict when hiring people. Wait, why are you paying them less? What are they worth less than you? And I had this conflict with me wanting to encourage people to be worth more and charge more and raise their rate, that's in conflict with the business owner who is trying to pay reasonable rates and be profitable and stay in business. So there's a conflict here.
That's so funny. Hey, charge as much as you can, and then someone interviews for you, and you're like, "I'm not gonna." Like, don't pull that on me.
Exactly. And by the way, to be fair, I've made a lot of mistakes earlier on in my business, paying way too much because I had this fantasy of I'm going to be the perfect employer. I'm going to pay people really what they're worth, or I'm going to value them and so forth. But it's just like, okay, that's not how you're going to build and maintain a business.
Totally. And it very much, because I also tried that, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to pay as much as I can for a designer. They've worked at top companies. It doesn't equal good work or good team members, just, so again, that whole value thing, interesting. I do find it really interesting that how you perceive, I don't see you as some altruistic, vegan man hovering on a cloud, doing it for world peace. Like, that's not
definitely not a vegan.
That's not what I'm, or the comment section. I guess what I'm saying, I do find it interesting though, your perspective on that, because when I see what you've done, I see all this good, as in people's lives are better. That might not necessarily be the sole intention, but regardless, all this good has come from it. And I do find it very interesting, your perspective on that, which kind of leads into a couple of questions more about the future, which is, especially now with everything with AI and all that stuff, man, I'm learning so much.
I just want to say one word about this.
Oh, please.
That again, I'm very in the, I don't know if you've read Ayn Rand, kind of like philosophy of you should do what's good for you and society will benefit from you being egoistic to a degree. Of course, it's not 100%, but a lot of the horrible things in the world that's happening are from people trying to fix the world. So, wars and whatever, a lot of these things is because people are trying to make the world a better place for everybody based on my idea.
Correct. Yeah.
So I'm just saying this as in if you're trying to, I don't know if you try to lead into, are you thinking about this before you go to work or you plan your next venture, if that's going to have a positive impact on the world and blah, blah, blah. No, I'm starting off with what's good for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy that there's positive impact in the world, but that's my starting point in terms of how I think about whatever my business ventures or what I'm doing. It's not how to save the world.
Interesting. Ayn Rand, I was not expecting that curveball. She was probably my favorite philosopher until the last few years, but I'd say she's my second favorite philosopher and has a huge impact. In fact, this tattoo, A is A, from John Galt's speech. But so yes, big fan of selfishness when it's understood correctly, I suppose, right? But that is a whole other rabbit hole. Interesting. Was not expecting that. So that leads nicely to where things are going. I wonder how much, see, for me, maybe some of my personal philosophy might help shape out the last question. So for me, I do have a goal. Here's how I arrived at it personally. I know for myself, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, that I definitely want to experience the maximum amount of good in my life possible. And as soon as someone says, oh, but you can't experience good all the time, I didn't say experience good all the time. I said the maximum amount. So what basically the best life that is possible for me, that is what I would like to have. So let's just say I achieve the best life possible for myself. Once that's happened, then the only other thing that could possibly make my life not as ideal is if the people around me are not having a good time. So I would want the people that I care about to also have the best lives possible, right? And basically the ripple effect of that is like, selfishly, I want my world to be as good as possible, which means the people that I care about, I also want their lives to be good as possible, the ripple effect of that, etc. So it's not necessarily...
I will say something, and I don't know, I'm not giving advice or anything, but you cannot take ownership of others people's happiness.
Totally.
You can control yourself, but other people, whether they have good lives or not good lives, whether they're happy or unhappy, that's outside of your control. Again, your control is what you do and how you treat them and how you interact with them.
It's out of your control.
Yeah. Yeah, it's out of your control.
Totally
And
agree.
and also if you condition your happiness by other people's happiness, like I will not be happy if this person is not happy, then this is a tough spot to be in.
Yeah, it's not fun. Totally agree. So on that, where is this all going for you? And you might not know, but let's say 100 years from now, what remains from the Segall legacy? Like what has come from it? And it could be as simple as I don't care, I don't know. But is there anything left? Is there anything?
I'm glad that you said 100 years and not like 10 years, because if you would say 10 years, I would say, how the hell am I going to I don't know. I don't know what 3 years are going to bring.
Dude, 1 year, the way things are going, 1 year is looking like.
Yeah. I'm really, based on everything that happened in the last 3 years, I have very little profiting. I'm not a prophet. Not profit is in money. Profit is, I don't see the future. It's it's changing very rapidly, both technologically with everything that's happening in AI and work and everything, but also on a geopolitical, whatever, economic, environmental. It's very difficult for me to predict what's going to happen. I can maybe look into the next year and think what's going to happen in the next year. And I'm trying to stay agile to be able to change if I need to. My life, my business, my skill set, I don't know. If we're very, we can be very concrete. What's going to happen in web design? I don't know, but the businesses are still going to hire people to build their website in the next 1 to 3 years. Most likely. Will that change beyond? I don't know. We'll see what the tools are like. We'll see. I don't know. I can try and predict to some degree what's going to happen in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, but honestly, I don't know. I'm rolling with the punches.
Is there anything that excites you the most about the coming year or two?
I'm trying to make a shift to working a little bit less so I can spend more time with the kids, or maybe do like a big tour. We're thinking about a road trip, couple of months road trip. So that's kind of like one thing that I'm excited about. We'll see how that happens, and maybe it will happen and maybe not. With the business, I'm enjoying what we're doing right now. I mean, I'm enjoying working on content. I enjoy working on courses. I love the team. So I'm loving the day to day.
Oh,
and
man,
I
that's
don't
awesome.
worry too much. Like previously I was worried a lot about, what are the financial outputs are going to be at the end of the year. And now I'm again, I don't know, because I can't control it. What I can control is my expenses and my investments. So I'm going to determine what actions I want to do. I want to spend, what do I want to invest in? And I'm going to put some rail guards to see that if things don't work well, I can cut my losses before it becomes a problem. But I'm not going to be, at least that's what I'm trying to tell myself. I'm not going to be disappointed if we don't grow or if we don't make as much money as I hope. I'm trying to, it's a process. I don't know that I'm not going to be disappointed. Maybe I will, but I'm trying to make this change.
How do you find having a family? I don't have a family, and I'm curious how that impacts your work. I mean, with the amount of stuff that you do you manage to, does it impact the way you work? Does it distract you? Does it motivate you?
First of all, my active memory is like 90 days. So honestly, I can't really remember my life before having a family. And I'm married for a lot of time. Like my kids are, so I don't remember what it was like before, but I can tell you right now, does it require, and even before I had family, I had firm boundaries in terms of I wouldn't work nights and weekends. So it's not as if my lifestyle has completely changed. I had boundaries before and I have boundaries now. Sometimes these, I need more time at home to help out or be with the kids. So, but that's kind of like.
So for me, that the boundaries thing, I'm not kidding. For me, that honestly just sounds incredible. Like I never had boundaries for the last 5 years in terms of work, that is.
I don't know how this happened. Even when I was at design school, when I was a student, all of my friends were like working nights to finish up and improve their work until the last minute. And I would just like, no, I'm not working past whatever, 8 p.m. I'm going to watch a movie with my girlfriend. At that time, I thought that my constraint was that I had a girlfriend where a lot of my friends were single. And I said, if I'm just going to work as a student on my design work, she's going to dump me if I don't, spend time with her. So I need to, that's my trade-off, right? That's what I told myself, right? I need to spend time with her. So that's where I'm passing the boundary. So I started to set the boundaries really early on. Then I had work when I was working in an agency. I would work to 1 a.m. multiple times a week. I've done that for a year. And then I was like, oh, I hate this. So that basically, after that year, I was like, never again, and used that boundary with the next job I had. I was like, look, I'm going home at 6. Is that okay with you? If that's not, just let me know up front. And I'm not going to work here. But if I work here, I'm leaving at 6 p.m. Is that cool? Cool. All right. And I would go, even though the rest of the team would stay, which was kind of awkward. But I'm like, guys, put the boundaries. Or everything is negotiable, right? So if you know what you want,
well, you just gotta know your worth, right?
No, you gotta know what you want, which is even harder than knowing your worth, knowing what you want.
Totally.
But I will tell you, it definitely puts, I guess you can call it purpose, but I got married and my wife really wanted to buy a house. I didn't care about buying a house. I didn't care about renting or whatever, but it was really important for her. Okay. So now I have to bust my ass to be able to afford buying a house in one of the most expensive cities in the world. He gave me drive. And then, oh my God, we've got 2 kids. That's super expensive. We need to make more money. So obviously that fueled my drive for making money, which previously wasn't there. It's funny, when I started dating my wife, she made more money than me. I was kind of like junior designer, entry level, probably minimum wage.
How did that feel? Was that create any kind of...
At the beginning, I don't know. I didn't thought about this. At that point, before we got married, before we had kids, I didn't really care about money. Do I have enough to pay rent and do what I want to do? Sure. Okay. So I didn't care about it. Afterwards, I'm like, oh, I need money. Okay. Let me figure out how to do that. And at that point, I started digging about how to make money and reading the business books and stuff like that. Before that, I wasn't really motivated by money. I didn't thought I want to start my own business. So I was just like, never really thought about the future anyway. So I was just coasting, I guess.
Interesting, mate. Well, I'm very grateful to chat with you about this stuff. And it's you sharing your thoughts on this has helped me see that I feel like you have a unique perspective on what you're doing. And I don't know if I fully cracked it. I don't know if we fully figured it out, but I felt it's a unique perspective that your answers I felt were unique to what most people might answer. And I feel like it's helped me see that there's something unique there around your perception of good. And very interestingly, it's helped me see the ideas you have around doing it for yourself, which I think is really interesting, which even I've had more of a shift around recently, because I feel like the most miserable and unhappy I've been has been when I've just chased money, but like taking myself out of the picture fully. But there's something that you've said, it's brought up questions for me, which is like, what am I doing that's different to that? Because clearly, again, coming back to the output, whether you care about the impact or, I think deep down my guess would be your preference would be that the outcome is positive and not cigarette cancer, would be my guess. But I'm very selfishly grateful that you selfishly put out everything you've put out, because it continues to snowball goodness in my life. So I appreciate that, man. And I hope that you continue to selfishly do things that you like doing, because it seems to be doing wonders for a lot of people, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It was always good to chat.
Big takeaway from that, mate. I'm going to ponder this conversation for some time to come, I think. Appreciate it.
Amazing.
Yeah, awesome.
Fun chatting.
Yeah, man. I know it's kind of that typical Confucius when you're speaking with someone that gives you more questions than answers or something. I think it's called wisdom or something like that, where they make you think more than just solid answers. But yeah, man, appreciate it. It's cool.
All right, so maybe we'll do another one in the next one. I'll do you again, and we'll do kind of like we'll ask you questions about what you want and what you're trying to achieve. We'll do kind of like I don't want to say coaching section, but we'll dig into you.
Yeah, put me on the spot. Like, dude, I love it. I love just sitting and trying to find those places in my mind where, and business has brought so much up for me. Like having to really go hard, really go after money. Like I'm going to win at this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it well. I'm going to succeed at it. That black and white attitude, which was not like, oh, I'm just going to go with the wit. Like it wasn't like I'm going this way. It caused, I guess, I don't know, more friction or things that you when you bump into things, it can create like hard impact.
All right, man. Talk soon. Cheers.